Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070.
Which basically meant don't try to automate existing systems, take a break and come up with a new paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it. And I think what needs to be understood is that the paradigm shift is much bigger picture than a lot of us are even giving credit for. We really have to think of a whole new way of doing things. Another conversation we had in the Facebook group yesterday, and in case anybody doesn't know which group I'm talking about the Between Well and Main Strategy Forum that I moderate on Facebook. And another conversation we had was around reviewing employees, right? And as soon as I even hear the phrase reviewing employees, I'm like, okay, nope, we're wrong direction, right? It's a different world we live in. We need to stop reviewing employees and we need to simply start training them, teach them how to do their job. Take that energy that you would put into berating them and making them feel like crap because you think they did a lousy job and just teach them how to do a better job. It's not that complicated, but it's a very different way of thinking. So, because this old school mentality of I need a list and I need to check off the list and say, here's what you did well and here's what you didn't do well, it's old school and you're going to die with the dinosaurs if you stick with that kind of mentality. If your intention is to build and run a business where you're going to hire employees, you've got to think differently, right? And I've been kind of holding back on this because I've wanted to organize how I put this information out there about how I'm building and growing my own practice. But what I am doing, very simply, is nobody's ever going to get a review at Nerd Enterprises Incorporated. They're going to get trained. And I have systems set up where I work closely with the clients. And as I posted in Facebook, I have two basic criteria that I gauge to determine if an employee is doing well or not. A, is the work getting done? B, is the client happy? And I always know the answer to question B because I'm in constant contact with my clients because I use Slack to do it. And no, I don't have 2,000 clients, nor do I want 2,000 clients. I want 100 clients that I have a really good intimate relationship with, and I can tell you the names of their kids and what schools they're going to, and I can tell you what the clients like to eat for lunch because it's about building relationships now. And so I know if the client is happy, and if the client is unhappy, or the answer to question A, the work isn't getting done, or maybe not getting done to my satisfaction, or especially if it's not getting done to the client's satisfaction, then the very simple answer is I'm not going to go beat the crap out of my employee, verbally, physically, or otherwise. I'm going to go to my employee and say, here's what we need to do better. Let me teach you. Let me show you how to do your job better than you know how to do it now. And as long as I take that approach, I'm going to have incredibly loyal employees who are going to be incredibly grateful because I never make them feel like crap. Instead of tearing them down, all I ever do is lift them up, right? And that's what relationships should be all about. Sorry for my rant.
It seems like with cloud-based systems that you have immediate feedback as opposed to the old review once a year where when I was a manager, I'd wait till like maybe the last minute and try to figure out, okay, what the hell has this employee been doing the last year, So you're constantly you're monitoring how things are going. With the
I can log into.
True. It's the speed of today is what's happening. Instead of reviewing past, like in the past, accounting typically has been past.
Yeah.
Because it took that much time to get the information in, took that much time to review it. Right now, everything's instantaneous. So right away. So doing it this way is staying up to date, on time, and not living in the past.
Do you see these guns?
I was going to say, those are from all your workout sessions.
So,
Yeah.
no, and it's true because I can go into my client's QuickBooks Online file anytime. I don't have to wait for a file to be sent to me. I don't have to wait for something to be updated. I don't have to have something uploaded to share file. I can just log in and start going through the balance sheet. And I think there's also this old school mentality that my bookkeeping staff, they don't know how to review a balance sheet. I can't count on them to do that. Yes, you can. You just have to show them how to do it. It's really easy to do, actually. All you have to do is click a few links to get a balance sheet up on your screen and then run through the balance sheet and test the balances. And testing the balances is not hard at all to do. Does the bank statement or do the bank balances agree, right? And the ultimate test of a bank balance, by the way, is assuming at first I've checked that it's reconciled to the most recent statement, then I drill into the bank account on the balance sheet. and I customize the report to show only uncleared transactions. And when I add up those uncleared transactions, does that equal the exact difference between the register balance and the bank balance today? It should. If it doesn't, something's wrong, and I need to stop and figure that out and fix it. And usually what it means if it doesn't is there's something that cleared the bank that's missing from QuickBooks.
And honestly, the bookkeepers are the best ones to be looking at that. If they look at the balance sheet all the time, they're going to know just by experience and looking at it if there's a problem, and they can zoom in on it.
I have a question about QBO, bank recs versus Xero. Does QBO have like cache coding?
What do you mean by cache coding?
I know what he means, because Xero has this cache coding screen that looks like a spreadsheet. No, it doesn't. And I honestly don't want it. I don't need it. And I'll tell you why. Because as soon as I need to split a transaction, I'm dead in the water with cache coding, right? And all too often, I need to split a transaction. Somebody takes a withdrawal out at the ATM. I need to split it up between the withdrawal amount and the bank fees. Things like that come up a lot. So I can only do so much with the cache coding. And to me, that's friction. I just want to be able to get into one screen that works for everything, right? Mm-hmm. And the basic QuickBooks download screen does that. Now, there's also a lot of other things I can do to help speed up the process with the bank feeds in QBO. And you can do this stuff in Xero. I can grab a CSV file and import transactions very easily. And, you know, it's interesting. Hector and I have had this conversation where, let's say for some reason you can't access bank feeds because you're going back far in time. And we're way off topic from today's session, but it's okay because it's interesting. Maybe we'll just change the topic and do the other topic in 2 weeks, because next week we have Google Keep with, or Google Docs with Ada Barlott. She's coming back. She was great. But there, you know, Hector was talking about how he likes to use, what is it, the PDF to QBO or whatever it is, you know, like where you just import the whole statement in, which is great. I haven't used that application specifically because I'm very content getting a CSV download from the bank and importing that. And I know all you can import when you do that is the date, the amount, and the description. But that works for me because once I do that, first of all, it takes 2 seconds to get that import done. There's really no prepping that I need to do in the CSV file. It's pretty much ready to go as is. And then I can do my coding right there in the QuickBooks Online download screen. It works exactly the same as if I had actually clicked update and downloaded it directly from the bank.
Well, didn't it just be in QBO that you had to use Transaction Pro Importer to get CSV files into bank?
No, I mean, no, if you want to import more complex transactions, if you want to import sales receipts and things, that you'll need Transaction Pro for. But just to import the banking, it's so easy. In the same place where you would click to update if you had a direct link to the bank, there's a little arrow and you click the drop down and there's an upload file option. And that's where you can upload the CSV. And again, what I like about it is that there's not all this mapping to do. I can get that stuff imported very quickly, and I'll do my coding right there in QBO. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time prepping an Excel file just to do a banking import.
Would you find that, in my experience has been with, like I think it was like Wells Fargo, I asked to get a CSV file of, you know, transactions that were past 6 months so I could import it. And they looked at me like they didn't know what I was talking about. I mean,
I bank with Wells Fargo. I'm able to go back a good 2 years usually with the CSV. And normally if I call them up and ask them for a CSV, they have no problem getting it for me if it's further back than they allow. Smaller banks, you might run into that issue. But in those cases, then I'll get the PDF and I use PDF to Excel. I use Cognitive, you know, Leroy Weinstein's product. I use, and because that makes it so easy, because once I create the profile for how to convert one statement, I can save that conversion profile and load up each statement and click one button and boom, 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 it's converted. Gina says my coffee looks delicious. It is. It's made with a French press. I love my French press.
I saw you French pressing it at the beginning of the session. I'm jealous.
Yep, I'm all ready for my second cup too when I'm done because my wife is already at work, so I get the whole thing. So, you know, I actually, here's how we can tie all of this into today's topic, right? Because one of the things I mentioned is that, you know, with the advent of the cloud and understanding what it truly means to be in the cloud, which means you need to be all in. You can't piecemeal it, right? You have to create the entire picture. You have to do everything in the cloud. You can't just do some things.
Can't just dabble.
Yeah, exactly. I can't just say, well, I'm going to go to QBO, but I'm still going to bill by the hour. It doesn't work. right? You're going to lose your shirt, and then you're going to say, well, it doesn't work. No, you didn't work, right? So, you have to go all in once you do this. You can't do it in pieces. You can't make a checklist and say, well, let's do these things first. No, just start moving everything to the cloud. Go to QuickBooks Online. Start using Google Docs. Get used to it. I don't know how many of you saw the article that they wrote up on me at Santa Monica College here, but because I'm teaching Google Docs and Slack.
Is there
and
a link?
loved what?
Did you put a link somewhere?
Yeah, in Facebook I linked to it.
Okay.
But they sent me. It's funny because I have friends who live near there who get this publication who didn't know. I haven't talked to them. One of them I haven't talked to probably in 2 or 3 years. Sends me a text message picture of the article that's here, and sends me his congratulations. Where is it? It's early on in the book too. It's like just a few pages in. And in this article, we kind of talked about the whole communications aspect of this. And if you're going to go in the cloud, I talked about Google Docs and co-authoring. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of us have loved Microsoft products for a long time, and we've all gotten really used to Microsoft Office. But the co-authoring capabilities of Google Docs are not even close to being matched by what Microsoft Office offers. It's just true. And it's funny because the timing could have been better. A couple of months ago in our BWAM forum Slack team, which is kind of our Slack team offshoot to the Facebook group, right? Some people were commenting in there. And by the way, what I love about that is we've got the categories. We've got the channels for the different apps and topics. So the conversations are really organized. So you don't have to, people don't have to post the same questions over and over again because you can go to your topic and you can look there and find it. And it's really easy to search for this stuff. Anyway, so that somebody was commenting in there saying, oh, but I have the keyboard shortcuts in Microsoft Excel. I don't have those in Google Sheets. Guess what? You have them in Google Sheets. And most recently, I've noticed they've been updating Google Sheets so that more and more of the legacy Excel keyboard shortcuts are now there. I can now do, because it used to be that some of the keyboard shortcuts you might have used for Excel were actually browser keyboard shortcuts, but now Google Sheets shortcuts override those. So it used to be if I hit Control+ because I want to insert something, it would enlarge the zoom because that's the browser keyboard shortcut. Now that's changed. Now that will actually insert something. So I can do Shift Spacebar in Google Sheets and then Control+Shift+ to insert an entire row, right? Control Spacebar to highlight a whole column, and then Control+Shift+ to insert an entire column. So what's this all got to do with today's topic? Let's tie it in and bring it home so I can show you these two applications I wanted to show you. Brought to you by Sarah Prevost. She's the one who introduced one of the two, actually, right? Rambox was the one you told us about, right?
That's the one, Christy. That was kind of one-upping the other one I found.
Okay.
The one, yeah. That's cool. That's all good.
Fair enough. Well, I gave you credit for it anyway because
Well, thank you.
Christy's not
I'll take
here.
it. She's not here. Ha!
All right, so you're representing Christy today.
Yes.
We'll call you Sarah Christy. No, so what we're talking about with respect to just bringing everything to the cloud, and what I talked about earlier where I said I don't want to have 2,000 clients, and by the way, that was a specific reference to a comment in another Facebook thread this week. We've had an exciting week. My newsletter tomorrow is going to be filled with really interesting stuff, although I have to get up extra early to write it because I'm actually going to teach one of these courses at Santa Monica College tomorrow. But bringing this all together, it comes down to having really good communication skills and tools, right? So we need to be able to communicate quickly, effectively, efficiently with our clients. And one of the points I've made is using Slack has, in my opinion, it's been one of the best strategic moves I've made this year because I really believe, first of all, it makes my service much more sticky because the clients love it. And frankly, then leaving me means probably leaving Slack because it's not likely a lot of the other accounting professionals out there that they're going to find next, unless they happen to find one of you fine folks, is not going to be using Slack with them, right? So we have all these communication tools now that we're starting to use so that we can provide this excellent concierge kind of service, right, where we're really there for them. I mean, one of the comments, and it's public on Facebook, so I don't mind saying who it was Rachel Michaela, made a comment saying, I tell my clients I'm not a pizza shop, right? And my response to that was, it's not about being a pizza shop. It's about providing an excellent service, but you also have to decide what your model is, right? In her case, she was talking about having 2,000 clients and how she could never manage Slack for 2,000 clients, and I agree with that. but that's the wrong kind of business model for the strategy that I'm talking about here. That's a churn them kind of just get them in, get them out, get paid kind of model. And that's not the kind of business I'm trying to build. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's completely different, right? And so I'm trying to build more of a concierge level service where, like I said, I don't want 2,000 clients. I want 100 clients. And I want 100 clients where, like I said earlier, I can tell you who their kids are, what age they're at, what grade they are in school, and I can tell you what my clients eat for lunch because I actually see this stuff, right?
It would seem like that that kind of a 2,000 clients would be in danger of being commoditized, in terms of.
Well, you're talking about being H&R Block, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just can't keep up with that kind of stuff.
Well, you never be able to give that kind of close touch to your clients, right? And that's what I said in my comments to her. I said, the kind of business model you're describing there is high volume, low touch. You're never going to be able to give your clients individualized attention with that many clients. Maybe you'll be able to give 20% of them that kind of individualized attention, but now you're falling, prey to that model of the 80-20 rule, right? And so if you start losing too many clients in that 20%, you're in trouble. So that's not the model I want to build. I want to build a business that's based on having 100 clients at $1,500 a month. At $1,500 a month, I can afford to provide services like Slack to facilitate really good communication so that I'm in constant contact. I'll share a quick story with you, and then we're going to get into the demonstration of our products. I had a client, a cleanup job that I did last week. I put the client in Slack immediately. I got the entire year of 2016 put together for this company in less than a week. I started it last Wednesday, and I was finished by Saturday. And it wasn't a small task. It was a lot of transactions that needed to get done. But I used the tools that we know how to use to get the stuff in there quickly. There's no way I could have gotten that done entering the stuff manually. Right? And I charged them a very handsome fee, to get this work done, especially to get it done so quickly. And in the end, they were happy to pay it. But here's what happened. So I got paid half of it up front, and I sent them the bill for the second half. And they had been very responsive up until that point. I sent the bill for the second half, and it was like radio silence. And I was like, okay, what's going on? All right, let me give them a day. And then I went back into Slack, and I realized there was something she had asked me for that I hadn't provided to her yet. And it was critical because she was very concerned about this one particular thing. And so I realized that. I ran the report that she needed because she didn't have access to her QuickBooks. They were in desktop. That was a whole other fiasco because I had to get them up in QuickBooks Enterprise 2017. And I wanted to make sure it was the Accountant's Edition because I wanted to make sure I had the batch enter feature because there's no way I could have done it without that. Turns out that the Enterprise Edition now has it all. It has all the accountant functions just built in. There's no Accountant versus Premier because it's a subscription-based product now. Either way, got in there, ran the report, and I dropped it into Slack in an Excel file, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here's your file. You can review this to see exactly how the amount that we came to was arrived at." She was concerned that there were things miscoded, and it turns out there weren't. And then she did have some questions about it, and again, we had the conversation, got those questions answered in Slack, never had to remind her once about the invoice. After that conversation was done, no exaggeration, 15 minutes later, got the notification that my other invoice had been paid, right? Now, it would have been nice if the client had actually reached out and said, "Hey, Seth, I want to pay you, but can you please answer this question first?" That would have probably expedited things even better. Communication is key, but it's not up to me. I'm hesitating here. To some extent, it's up to me to maybe train my clients on how to communicate well with me, but the point I would really want to make here is it's my job to make sure that I'm communicating well, right? And as long as I do my part there, then I've done my part, and that's what I can do. Interestingly, I have another client also using Slack whom I've reached out to several times now trying to get clarification on how I'm going to get paid, because here I've broken the rules and I went ahead and I trusted the guy because I've known him for years, and I've invoiced him instead of getting paid up front. And he's very responsive about a lot of things, but for some reason I'm getting a radio silence response on invoice payment. Anyway, these tools like Slack make it very easy to have these communications. Emails get buried, right? But Slack just makes it drop dead simple to keep the conversations going and to keep them organized. Think of it as what you would use in a subject line on an email is how you might set up your channels to describe the different topics of conversation, right? So within the last couple of weeks, I've been introduced to a couple of tools that, because one of the challenges we now have is, I don't know about you, but I have a whole bunch of different Gmail accounts, right? I have my nerdenterprises.com. I also have SethDavid.com. And I have other things that I use excuse me, in terms of communications channels. So I forget which is which between these two. We have Rambox Pro. Oh, dick brain. Great app for aggregating communication channels. So this is the one that aggregates all different kinds of communication channels. I'm going to launch this in the browser so that we can actually see it. So this is the one that I guess Sarah pointed out that Sarah had one like it, but then Christy brought this to our attention.
They're kind of smashed together, so they're Christy Sarah show.
What?
It's kind of smashed together, the two apps. Anyways, they work really well.
Right. All right, so let's get Rambox for Windows 7 or newer. Let's do it. The one thing that makes me pause, though, especially given what we were just talking about, is that I'm now downloading another desktop app, which like I said, that kind of gives me pause.
An extension.
No, it's not. But I think I knew that. But if it's a desktop app that's just providing me with a portal to what's going on in the cloud, I'm fine. What I don't want is I don't want to have a situation where I'm like syncing data and where there can be conflicts or even a delay. It needs to be real time. So that's what we're going to find out. We're going to find out now whether or not Seth hates Rambox.
And you'll just like the other one again?
I don't know.
I see it in the corner on your extension.
Which one?
The black.
Oh, this one. The black, yeah. What is it called again? I never use this. I put it here and I never ended up using it.
Oh, I use it.
What's this called again in case somebody else wants to try it? I don't even know what it's called.
I think it's Black Box.
Yeah, Black Box or something like that. Something. That's right, because it reminded me of that 80s dance music band, Black Box.
Yes, there you go.
That was my frame of reference. So yeah, this is kind of like that. But what
that one just lays over though.
Yeah, this is an extension that just lays over here. But like if I go to Gmail, does it give me access to multiple Gmail accounts, or I just have to do that in the usual way? Oh, it does when I click here.
I think, yeah, let me go look and see how mine is set up. I forgot.
It's already very slow, though. I'm already losing faith here. All right, so we have...
voila.
Now, this appears to be giving me my nerdenterprises.com emails. So what about my other email accounts?
Let me see. Now you're testing me. Let me see.
I know. I am testing you. All right, get back to us on that.
Okay.
I'm going to start installing Rambox now. I'll be honest, I sort of hate the name Rambox. It sounds terrible to me.
I guess we're seeing a trend, though. This is Rambox. That's Black Box.
But then the other one we're going to look at is called Shift. Now, Shift... while we're waiting for Rambox. And this is already my problem. Like cloud software, I'd be in and done already. Here comes Rambox. Also things, to be very fair, are a little slowed down because I'm streaming over Zoom on the internet, and that tends to slow things down, but still. Now, Shift is kind of a similar tool in that, as you can see from their screenshot, it will allow you to manage multiple Gmail accounts in a very Slack-like manner. You know how in Slack, I'll show you in my Slack, you have different teams that you can be logged into. Shift, you have different Gmail accounts. And in Gmail, yes, you can add accounts and have them accessible from the same browser section. But this looks like it's much easier to navigate to me. Of course, now I'm really taxing my resources. Slack is crashing on me. Let's go back to Rambox. So here's Rambox, and as you can see, it's got all these sort of default applications. If, God forbid, anybody's still using AOL Instant Messenger, you can actually connect that here.
That's awesome.
Are they still in business?
Yeah, that's going to be a quote or tag for this. God forbid you're still using
If, God forbid, you're still using Instant Messenger, we have a solution for you.
I love that.
Is AOL still in business?
Yeah, they're still owned by Time Warner.
There's emails out there that I
You still have, you know what? You still have a lot of lawyers that have AOL email addresses. Lawyers are the worst at adopting technology. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
I'm serious.
I agree, Seth. I do.
They're the absolute worst. I think maybe they're worried, because of the nature of what they do, that they feel like they need to be extra secure and they need to be extra sure about things. I don't know. But I found that lawyers still have AOL email addresses, and, some of them still use Hotmail, I think. Although Hotmail's not terrible. Some people, I think, do still use that. You know what I haven't seen in a really long time? Remember Earthlink? I used to have Earthlink for my email.
Yeah.
I had Earthlink for a minute. Gina, I'm pouring my second cup of coffee for you here. I don't know if you can see
Oh, enjoy it for me.
I will. So we have a bunch of different services we can add through Rambox, including Gmail. We have iCloud for my Mac friends.
Mm.
LinkedIn
They have
messaging.
Hootsuite there.
What
which is
exactly
not
does
really
Rambox do?
email.
Well, so Rambox, again, Dennis, what we're looking at on my screen now is a list of services that I can select and log into so that from Rambox, I can easily navigate all these different communications channels from this one window. In other words, I don't have to open up 6 different browser tabs or 6 different applications on my computer like the Slack app.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of, here's River, which is a competitor to Slack. Here's Slack. Let's see if I can easily install my between wall and main strategy for him here. Where it did? Oh, it looks like Slack really did crash.
So it's kind of like a traffic cop in a sense.
Yeah. It's an aggregator, right? It gives you a central place through which you can access all of this stuff.
Or a CRM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. You could think of it as a CRM because again, it's all the different ways that you might communicate with people, then brought into one, tool. So we're going to call this for the name BUM Forum, and then it's actually bumforum.slack.com.
Does Slack integrate with CRMs like, say, Nimble or?
We'll check in a second because again, once you download it, you'll start to see all the services. But Christy showed us that there's also a place you can go where you can just add in the URL for any communication system so that if you don't have that service sort of pre-listed here, you can still connect it anyway, and it will connect to most things. So let's add this. And I want to see what it does. I'm assuming it's going to need my logins, which I'm going to need to pull up on my other screen. Everything is very slow. But you can start to see here, it's going to come up. And so really what this is, it's almost, probably the best way to describe it is it's like a browser, right? Where you can browse all these different communications channels and access them from here. I think a browser is really the best way to describe this, but it's a browser with a very specific purpose in mind. So bear with me here while I open up LastPass on my screen that's not shared so I can log in real quick. Meanwhile, you all know my email address anyway. It doesn't matter. And my password is LastPass generated, so good luck figuring out what that is. One thing I do, because I do have a lot of different Slack teams that I've logged into, is I use the exact same, because the domain is always going to be something.slack.com. So I use the same exact password for every Slack team, because that way I can just use the same option in LastPass to get logged in no matter which Slack team it is. So now we're in the between wall and main forum in Slack, and you can see it creates the tab across the top. So as I add more services, we're going to see more tabs across the top. I love the stupid little messages that they come up with while Slack is loading. Be cool, but also be warm. All right, meanwhile, let's go back over here. And Dennis, what did you ask me about Nimble?
Yeah, does it integrate with Nimble?
I think that I'm going to try adding, I don't think Nimble is here natively, but I think we can use the custom one. There's TweetDeck. Gina, I think I heard you say you saw Hootsuite in here.
Yep.
I actually do pay attention.
Oh, there's Zoho email.
So yeah, here's custom service. So this is where I can add anything. So I'm going to double check that Nimble isn't here already. And if it isn't, we're going to do it as a custom service. So here's M, and then the only thing with an N is noisy. It's funny because when we were first looking at this, I was like, what are all these services I've never heard of? Now I want to like try all of them, right? Great. Now I've just lost like an entire weekend because I'm going to want to see what's noisy, what's missive, what's missims. I want to know what all these things are. John D, Kaiwa.
Kiwi.
ICQ is one that I'm also surprised is still around. That's older than an AOL Instant Messenger.
I don't
Board.
even know that one.
ICQ is the original instant messaging app
Oh,
that only like real techie guys used way back when the internet was like just barely born. All right, let's try Nimble now. Services. Nimble. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to give them the Nimble URL. Because I think what's going to happen is it's just going to have me log into Nimble. And look, you can even upload, since it's custom, I can upload a logo. So it's very clear which service it is. So now it's going to just open up a web page and ask me to log in. And let's go to my LastPass for Nimble, CRM. I need the password for that. Sorry, it's so slow. I've got like so many things running right now. And Nimble's coming out with a really cool new feature that they're going to announce next week. I've been given the opportunity to beta test it this week and write content about it. This is going to really be a game changer when it comes to CRMs. But that's as much as I can tell you for now. Boom, so now I'm in Nimble. So like I said, and I think this kind of confirms what I said, that really what Rambox is it's a desktop, it's a browser tool, right, that gives you access to any of these services. You know, that you, as long as you have a login, you can set up the service and access it from here. That's really what this is.
Separate them. Remember how she was saying you could separate left and right, so you could like have communication on one side and then like, I don't know, other stuff on the other, on the bar up there.
Yeah, I just don't know how to do that.
When you set it up, you kind of, yeah, I think you can like hit.
Well, I saw it in the setup that it said align left, align right.
Mm-hmm. I just wonder how you go back and do that.
Probably here, right? And so here are the tools that I have, and here's the settings, right? So let's say I want VUM Forum to be on the right. Let's change this. And it says align left 2 items. So instead I can check off here where it says align right.
Sweet. That's easy.
And then I'll confirm that I want to edit VUM Forum.
So Seth, which version of Slack do you use? Which paid version, or do you use free?
I only have the paid version for one of my teams, which is the internal Nerd Enterprises team. Every other team I have, I'm using just the free version.
Oh, really? So
yeah, I mean, the only difference is it limits you to how many messages you can store in there, and then up to 10,000 messages. After that, you start losing the old messages if you have a free version. And there's some other features that you don't get with the free version that I don't have a need for yet. That's like I always tell people, like, use the free version until you run into something you need the paid version for.
So I was thinking of using Slack for, say, my business tax returns, and so the client would get a free. I mean, they could set up free too, or I guess I'll need to watch your videos to.
Well, you're going to set up a team, Dennis, for you and your client to share in.
Okay.
And now the question is, for a tax business, which goes back to what we were talking about before, when you have 2,000 clients, because all you're doing is churning tax returns, and I'm not saying that's your business model, Dennis, but the point I'm making is, if you have a business model where you have a lot of clients, it may be unwieldy to have a separate Slack team for each client. So in your case, what you could do is you could get the paid version, and then you could invite each client in as what's called a single channel user. So they will only have access to the one channel that you've invited them into. That's a feature that's only available in the paid version.
So there's one it's like $6 a month, and there's like 12. Which paid version would that be?
You have to look and compare and see what the pricing differences are and what you get with one versus the other. I have a feeling the upgrade and you're paying per month per user, and then they actually prorate the billing based on usage. So if your client comes in and uses it a lot between January and March because you're getting the returns done, and then they're gone for the rest of the year, they're going to prorate your fees down because of the lack of usage. So
So does one channel equal one user, or do you have one channel equal multiple users?
Well, so again, if you're going to create one team for everybody, then you're going to want the paid version so you can invite them each in as a single channel user. So then you have one team where each channel is for a different user. Keep in mind where that's going to limit you is that you will not be able to create, not easily, create different channels to organize different topics of conversation. But for doing a tax return, you may not need to, right? What I do is I create a separate Slack team, an entire Slack team for each client, because then it's dedicated, it's only for that client, and now I can organize my channels because when I'm doing accounting and bookkeeping for a client, I want different topics that we can talk about. I want a channel for banking. I want a channel for sales tax. I want a channel for payroll. I want channels for each of the major areas that we work in so that I can keep those conversations organized. And like I always, my favorite phrase to use on this stuff is, that the information and the communications that I want to have with the client are organized, categorized, and easily referenced, right? Easily referenced being the most important thing is that later on in 6 months from now, when I have no independent recollection of where something was, I have a logic to how it's organized so that I don't need an independent recollection. I can still find it in 30 seconds or less when I need it. Right? That's my rule. So in your case, Dennis, I think you might probably want to do one team for everybody, and each person has their own private channel, right? And like I said, there's a specific type of user you can invite in for your clients called a single channel user. I'm pretty sure you can get that with the lowest paid version, right? So start with the $6 a month plan. And if you find that you need to upgrade to 12 because for some reason you don't have that at that level, then you upgrade and decide if it's worth it.
But
right?
I wouldn't be paying $12 per client. I'd be paying $12.
I think it's actually, the price is actually $3 per month per user. I don't even know that there's any other options with Slack. I mean, are you seeing options like that or?
No, I just.
Yeah, I think it's one plan, with Slack, 2 plans, either paid or not paid. And I think the paid is $3 per month per active user, right? In other words, even if you have a user who you've invited in and they're not active, it's not going to cost you for their usage because they're not actually using it.
I'm looking at this as standard, $667 per active user, and the plus is $12.50 per active user.
Oh, I don't know then. Then they've changed the pricing.
Raised it.
But again, it's per active user. So like I said, you may pay a lot in the months where you're busy working with them preparing their tax returns, and then the rest of the year it's going to go quiet, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, Rambox is where we can connect all these services, and I can connect. I have lots of different Slack teams. I can connect the other Slack teams in here, because again, you just go back through the services, and I can click here again and just add a different Slack team, right? So it's infinite, and the bottom line is, as long as it's a cloud-based service where I can give Rambox a URL and a login, it can render it here, right? Mm-hmm. So that makes it kind of nice. Mm-hmm. Notice they've even got Outlook 365, but I strongly urge you to use Google.
What's that? Squirrel Mail.
Squirrel Mail is actually pretty cool. I used to use that with one of my early versions of my Nerd Enterprises domain website. Mm-hmm. Squirrel Mail was the email client. It was a web-based email client that came with the hosting plan. Squirrel Mail was actually one of the first web-based email clients before Gmail existed. And it was actually kind of cool. Like, what's Rocket Chat? That sounds cool. I want to use Rocket Chat. I mean, that sounds awesome. It's a rocket and a chat. It's probably really fast, right? With a name like Rocket Chat.
I was just thinking Rocket J Squirrel for Squirrel Mail.
Maybe Dennis, you should call your tax practice Rocket Tax. Right? Rocket Tax. We get them done fast.
I'm just picturing him saying that. Hi, I'm with Rocket Tax.
I'm Dennis with Rocket Tax.
Yeah, we're not squirrely either, so.
I'm Dennis with Rocket Tax, and I have 2,000 clients.
You probably don't recognize the reference to Rocky and Bullwinkle, Rocket J Squirrel.
No, of course I do. Yeah. All right, let's look at Shift. Shift is really the same idea as Rambox, but only for Gmail accounts, right? So if you have a lot of different Gmail accounts, you can use Shift, and as you can see, I'm actually not going to bother downloading and installing this. And truth be told, I'm probably going to get rid of Rambox, because like I said in the beginning, let me qualify this. I'll go back to the top on this. I love the idea of both these tools, but I hate the idea of a desktop app running on my computer. I feel like it's just going to slow things down even more, right? But if you're feeling like I'm overwhelmed, I have all these different communications channels and I have to open up 60 different browser tabs and 20 different, logins for all these different things, then this might be a good option for you. I personally will probably not use this stuff because, bye, Gina. We'll see you this afternoon, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Just search for Gina's group on Facebook. It's called SBAA, Small Business Accounting Advisors, and go check in with Gina later today. It's usually what you see is what you get, and you get what you get, and that's that.
I think you got that covered.
How is that for an endorsement?
I
Gina,
love
I'll be your new voiceover. Actually, no, we need to hire
Thank
Mike
you. I would
Henninger.
appreciate
Mike.
that. I'm honored.
That should be our tagline. You get what you get.
Mike
No,
needs to do all
Actually,
of this.
we need to have one of our 97 and up members, Mike Henninger, we discovered this week, has the most amazing voice for voiceovers. So we're going to be hiring him to do all of them. I mean,
It's a
he's got
radio
this like
voice.
strong, deep voice. Yeah, it's definitely a voice for radio. It's not a face for radio, but a voice for radio.
It reminds me of a radio voice growing up in Seattle. This guy that I used to listen to on one of the stations. So.
Yeah. No, he's got like a good, strong, deep voice, and it's like, you know what it reminds me of? Remember Wolfman Jack?
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
But not quite as raspy
I was
as
gonna say,
Wolfman
yeah.
Jack. He's got a much more milky kind of voice than Wolfman Jack did. Anyway,
Very
we'll have to get
calm.
Mike to show up on here now so everybody knows what we're talking about.
When I was at the U, I was working in the dorm, and there was this one disc jockey that was living there, and he didn't look anything like his voice. He was like skinny with the big protruding Adam's apple, and
That's funny.
I'm trying to picture all of that.
Ichabod Crane.
So Sarah Laidlaw is on Facebook commenting. She says, I wish there was a way to see all who are on the call with you. You know what, Sarah? There is. Join us on the call.
Hi, Sarah.
Carmen Manrique says she had CompuServe. And Linda Russell says, I still use CompuServe, part of AOL now. Oh, my God.
Oh my gosh.
She says, I started using it in 1989. Wow.
I thought they went out of business.
I guess not. I guess it's part of AOL now. So, and then there was another service called Prodigy that came out around the time that
Oh, yeah,
AOL
I
did.
remember
Remember
that.
that one?
Yeah, I remember that
Nothing
one.
ever dies, I guess.
Well, I don't think Prodigy's around anymore.
No, they got shut down.
And then, well, it's interesting. If you want to learn exactly what happened in Netscape, remember Netscape? That was the original browser.
Mm-hmm.
Before Internet Explorer, read the book, The Hard Thing About the Hard Things. And you'll actually hear the exact story about these were the guys who actually developed Netscape. And right as they're developing it, Microsoft announces they're going to come out with a free browser. Netscape, the plan was to charge for it. And Microsoft came out and said, yeah, we're going to give you the same thing, but we're going to charge you nothing for it. And these guys who put all kinds of money into developing Netscape were like, oh, shit, what do we do now? So it's a great book anyway. You should all read it. The Hard Thing About the Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. Yep.
Okay.
It's I don't think I've made it official yet, Sarah, but it's going to be part of required reading for 97 and up. It's
Okay.
a great book.
Well, I'm going to jump on it then.
So Shift, as you can see, on the left, you would have your different Gmail accounts that you want to be able to access. And notice across the top, you can toggle between Gmail, the calendar, and Google Drive, which is right there at the very top right. I don't know how well you can see my screen here.
Mm-hmm.
But this looks like also a really cool aggregator for communications. Again, I'm not going to use it, but I think there's probably a lot of people out there who would really, who this would be very useful for.
Yeah.
Rambox, same thing. Nimble, I'm very happy to use in my browser. It's, and the Slack stuff, I have the actual Slack desktop client that I use. I never use Slack in the browser because I feel like Slack was really built to work in the in the app.
Mm-hmm.
So Rambox might be a way, but I'm not going to use Rambox just to use Slack when I already have a Slack client, right?
Yeah.
So in fact, I'll show you. Let me go to the same thing using the actual Slack client. We have people. I have to be careful what I bring up on my screen with some of the things that people post.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, please do. Be careful.
Yep. So no, I brought it over to the same BWAM forum. This one's safe because this one's sort of like a public channel, semi-public anyway.
Keep the
And
nerd
as
one
you can
locked
see
down.
on the left, notice I have a series of channels all beginning with the word apps _ and then the app you're looking for. So if you're looking for information on Active Collab, which is my favorite project management tool, Control K, K as in kick, is the kind of universal jump command. And I can start typing active, and it finds Active Collab. You want to go into our share file channel, start typing share. There's share file, right? So we jump over to share file, and now you can see all the discussion that we've had about share file. Lots of good information here. And if you're looking to join this, first join our Facebook group, Between Wall and Main Strategy Forum on Facebook. And then actually what I've done is in the forum, there's a link where you can request to join, because it's not like with Slack, for those of you who don't know how it works necessarily, it's not like you can just click on a link and, you know, create an account. I have to actually invite you.
There's Alexa. She's got to go.
Bye, Alexa. But I have to actually invite you. So from within the Between Wall and Main Strategy Forum, let's bring that over. Ooh, nice picture from Momentum today. Nice picture of the Salta, Argentina.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I wonder if everybody gets the same picture every day or if it's mixed up. But anyway, from the Between Wall and Main Strategy Forum, it's actually right here in the description. And here's a smart sheet form I created where you can request access to the Slack team, and I'll get you access right away. The only reason it might delay an hour or so is because I'm in a session with somebody. But I'm generally because I get notified the instant somebody fills out this form. So fill out this form, request to join, I'll let you in within the hour. One of the beautiful things about it is no spammers can get in, right? So it's organized content, spam-free, right? And I've even had a couple people who I think got into the group and requested to join, but their information looks sketchy to me. And there's a notes field where you can explain why you're excited to join the group. And most people will at least comment and say something. So when I get somebody requesting to join and it looks sort of questionable, and then they, and they don't fill in that comments box, I actually ignore those. I've only gotten a couple of those. Hey, look, Tiffany joined just now, 9 a.m. Hi, Tiffany. Wait, Tiffany, how did you join without requesting an invite? Or did I send it to you a long time ago?
Maybe she's on the channel, though, or on the team.
Well, no, in order to join, she's typing now, so she must be listening on Facebook. The only way I can imagine is either somebody else invited her in, or she requested to join and I sent her the invite a long time ago and she just never accepted it until now. Let me go back to Facebook here and see. All right, so Tiffany's not here in this feed. Let's see if maybe she's on the Facebook page. Because remember, the video actually plays on the Nerd Enterprises page. We lost somebody.
Did we lose Dennis?
Dennis went to sign up for Slack.
Yeah, he did. He's so
Slack should be paying me affiliate commissions. I've been sending a lot of people their way.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany says, always been a part of my team. I know you have, Tiffany, but it just says you just joined the Slack team like 9 a.m., like a minute ago.
Well, that one, though, that channel, I think. She just joined the channel.
Oh, the share file channel.
Yeah.
Oh, duh. Okay, I'm so sorry. You know why? Because general is where I'm thinking that's where it shows up when somebody has first actually joined the team. Sorry, Tiffany. I'm an idiot. I'm not a very smart man.
That's why you got the rest of us to help you.
I know. I need you. Wait. Okay. So now notice how share file is now lit up because Tiffany has comments in there. She's been part of the Slack team forever. Just realized the share file channel. Yeah. Oh, so I'm glad you said that, Tiffany. So if you want to browse all the channels, you just actually click here on the word channels, and it will show you channels you belong to. Now, I belong to all of them. So if there were channels that I didn't belong to, ahead of this would be a list of what would be described as channels I can join, right? So you just click on the word channels to see what channels are available. And I think of them as like subscriptions. So if right now I need to learn about ShareFile, then I join the ShareFile channel. If it comes to a point where, okay, I've started using ShareFile, I know it, I love it, I'm intimate with it, and I don't really need to learn any more about it, you can leave the channel and in effect unsubscribing so that you don't have to be bogged down with activity on the channel all the time. And you can always join and leave as many times as you want It's not like unsubscribing from somebody's email list. You know, it's just, again, it's like turning it on or off. You can leave it. You can also go into the settings for the channel, and you can set your notification preferences, right? And so in your notification preferences, you can decide, you can mute the entire channel saying, don't notify me about anything. Ignore notifications when people tag the whole channel or at here, right? And here you can decide where you get the notifications, desktop, mobile, both or none. So there's all kinds of preferences that you really want to play around with, by the way, once you're in Slack. And I got to do more videos on it because there's so many things to this, and now they're adding new stuff. This here is lighting up new threads, meaning somebody has replied like in a thread to something. I'm not going to click on it because for all I know, it's something private. So just in case, I'm not going to do that. But that's it, my friends. So we started off kind of sideways on the topic for the day. But I think I brought it all back home with making the bigger picture point about, you know, when we're going all in with all these cloud applications, the communications apps become key to making it all work and connect. And that's where you might want to use one of these sort of communications aggregators like Shift or Rambox or Blackbox, or just go onto Spotify and search for Blackbox and you'll hear what their music sounded like in the late 80s. Totally unrelated and random and complete squirrel right there. But that's what I always think of when I think of Blackbox, because I had that lady with this high-pitched voice, powerful voice. I used to love their music, actually. I'm now going to go listen to Blackbox. I got to go. Time's up. Go to Gina's Hangout later today, and we'll get this episode posted. If I can get up early enough in the morning before I head to Santa Monica College, like usual, I'll have it posted first thing tomorrow morning on the web. But the recording, of course, is live on Facebook already. So you can watch the replay on Facebook. That's it, folks. I will see you all around the web.